Councilor.
Good evening. Kevin Smith, 6 King Phillip Drive. Just wanted to say a few comments tonight. I noticed on the agenda later on you're going to be talking about whether or not to go down the path of pursuing impact fees for the town. And I just wanted to say how short-sighted I think of an exercise this is going to end up being. Lest anyone have amnesia, let's remind everyone why the town currently does not have impact fees. We did at one time until a little less than 15 years ago when the town was sued because it was illegally collecting impact fees at that time and illegally appropriating impact fees. There was a letter to the editor written in the local newspaper recently that talked about all of the things the impact fees were being collected for previously, things like the intersections at 128, and that's true, it was illegally. And the town owed hundreds of thousands of dollars back to the developers because it was not administering its impact fee program correctly. So the first thing is, if you're going to go down this path, you are going to have to hire a consultant. You're going to have to hire a really good attorney to make sure you're doing this correctly. That's going to cost all of us taxpayers money to do that. The second thing is there has to be a rational nexus between the impact fees that are being collected and growth in the town. The developers, they're already paying taxes to support all of the operational costs of the town. So the impact fees are only to support things that are related to growth. And those growth items also have to be mentioned and be part of the CIP for the town as well. You can't just say, oh, we're going to charge you impact fees to improve certain roadways in town. That's illegal. You can't do that. You can't charge new businesses impact fees for the schools because they don't impact the schools. So these items have to be specifically related to things that are in your capital improvement plan. Currently, the town has 4 items, multi-million-dollar items in its capital improvement plan. None of them are related to growth at all. But let's say one of them was. We'll pick the DPW garage because I like Dave. Even if you were collecting impact fees to support the DPW garage, those impact fees are only going to pay for a fraction of what the overall cost is of that project. They're never going to cover the entire cost of the entire project because, again, you're only charging a very small fee to all of these different developers. And so unless all of you are ready to support bonding these multi-million-dollar items in the CIP, this is going to ultimately prove to be an exercise in futility. You're going to collect the fees, they're going to earn interest in an account, and in 6 years, if the program is being run correctly, you're going to end up giving them back, the fees back to the developers, because you're required to by state statute, with the interest. So I would suggest that if you talk to the town manager, there are better ways to skin the cat here. There's TIF districts, there's exactions, there's off-site mitigation, there's other ways you can get what you want than going through the process of costing the taxpayers money and collecting fees that you're never going to spend anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Up, old business. Discussion of the feasibility of impact fee ordinance.
Working on it.
Good.
What page is, do you know what page it is?
It's almost always bad.
Okay. So this item is a result of some discussion that the council has had in prior meetings, that being impact fees. So in your packet, you'll see a memo from legal counsel that essentially outlines the statutory process for how to go about implementing impact fees. So just to be a little bit brief, I'm not going to read the whole memo, but impact fees are a tool authorized under state law that allow municipalities to assess new development for its proportional share of capital facility costs, such as schools, roads, fire protection, and recreation, needed to accommodate growth. Fees must be assessed in accordance with locally adopted ordinance and based on documented methodology. So the intention of this item is to have the council discuss and provide direction that authorizes the town manager to start to develop that impact fee ordinance and then an implementation plan for your consideration in the future. So we're not looking to have a discussion about what impact fees are or aren't and costs associated with each potential fee. What we're looking for is the council's consensus as to how you want town staff, that being the town manager, to proceed with, again, developing that draft ordinance and an implementation plan.
Any questions from the council? Any discussion? So tonight, we're not voting on impact fees, yes or no. We're voting if we want the town manager to move forward with a, basically finding a plan for us and then bringing it back to us to discuss.
So I feel like the proper way, this is the problem when we get a concept, throw it out there, that's going to solve a bunch of problems, but we don't have anything on the CIP that we'd apply to this. So it's hard to envision how to go forward without having an end in mind. And until we have something, I think that'd be the proper time to do that then on when something applies. Because impact fees is always a good funding mechanism specifically for certain things. But we don't have any of those certain things, so it's hard to tailor it. It's hard to write a policy to just kind of guess at what we might want when we have that CIP project.
The other end is we don't have the money for this right now. We would have to go forward with our budget process and project out what kind of costs this may entail upon the town for our consultants and their various fees for developing this whole study, and if this would even be logical or not for us to move forward with.
Yeah, I don't want to spend money until we have something to spend money for.
Mm-hmm.
So my 2 cents is, I understand you don't want to spend money, but we don't have to spend money. We just need to figure out what are the tools, and I'll use the planning board term, what are the tools we want in our tool belt ready and prepared to be able to use when a situation arrives that we need to use them on. Yeah, it might not be this year that anything's on the CIP, but it could be next year. And then we have to start all over and we haven't got it done. And maybe there's a whole bunch more stuff out there. So if we have time and we can kind of put it together, and I believe the town manager has already done it up in Lebanon, he uses everything. He said we should have everything in our tool belt. And that includes, something that Kevin earlier went through, which was, extraction, I can't say the word, extraction fees, impact fees, TIF districts. He used one that I didn't know what it was, but off-site plans. And we should have property management, property agreements. So all of them should be there and in place if and when we need them. So starting a dialogue isn't a big deal, I don't think, and I don't think it should cost anything. And to me, we haven't had something like this in a very long time to be able to do. And other towns are doing it, and they don't seem to have a problem. They have it in their tool belt so that they're ready to act on things when things arrive.
I guess I don't think the ramp up is that long. I mean, let's say we have a capital improvement project next year to say, let's expand 28. Let's pick a road, and that's probably a bad example, but let's just say that comes up and we can use it with impact fees. I think developing it then, those projects don't happen overnight. We have time to have a first and second reading of a hearing, get an impact fee structure, and then we'd at least know tailored what we're voting on instead of just going, we'll do impact fees sometime for something. That's a harder policy to craft, and I feel less confident in voting on something nebulous than I do something specific.
So I guess my justification to you, Sean, is how do all these other towns have it in place, sitting and waiting, and we can't?
Because they've had applications for it. We've been burned.
We haven't
and got
had
taken
any
away.
because we had people who
Yeah,
didn't
mismanaged
manage
them.
the fees correctly. That's not our fault.
Correct, but
And
we have
so-
nothing in CIP currently that we
Well-
could use it for.
I think before we further go down this rabbit hole, I'd like to take councilor privilege and wait for our town manager to come back to speak
Okay.
fully
Fair enough.
on this
Yeah.
subject,
Fair enough.
along with Kelly's
Fair enough.
expertise.
So let the
on
record
it.
show that Ted has invoked council privilege. This will be put off to the next meeting when the town manager is here.
Okey dokey.